Hello everybody, welcome to this webinar. My name is Olivia. I am a partner director here at Bonita and we have the pleasure today to be with our partner INNTEC, located in Lithuania, who's going to share his experience today in using Bonita BPM technology within the frame of a very exciting project in the Ministry of Agriculture in Lithuania, a project called Zoomies. So before we start this webinar, let me remind you that you should have a headset on in order to have better sound quality, that you should be now able to see our screen. So if this is not the case, you can use the chatter box at your disposition in the control panel of GoToWebinar to notify us if at any moment during that presentation you have either problem in seeing our screens or hearing our voices. So before we start, let me as well describe the agenda for this webinar today. First of all, we'll have Martin, being the CEO of INNTEC, Bonita Soft Partner, presenting his company. Afterwards, we will have Martin explaining us what was the project, how he used Bonita Soft technology, and what pains he's been able to overcome for his clients' needs. After Martin's presentation, I'll have the pleasure as well to do a rapid presentation of Bonita Soft as a company, and we will take all your questions at the end of this webinar. So again, during the presentation, don't hesitate to mark your questions within the chat box and we will review them at the end. So I'm going to now pass the lead to Martin so he can share with us his screen and start presenting his company INNTEC and obviously explaining you all what is the project you've been able to put in place. So Martin, I'm going to pass you the lead and you're going to be able to share your screen with us. Great. We can see your screen, but we cannot hear you, Martin. You have to unmute yourself.
Oh, hello, everyone.
Hi, Martin. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting.
So that's your turn. We are very pleased to have you here, and we are all curious. We have lots of participants here now connected, and they want to hear everything about what you've done within the Ministry of Agriculture.
Great, great. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
Good. So my name is Martin Schliberts, and I am a CEO of INNTEC, a company established in Lithuania. So my presentation will be in basically two parts. I will quickly go over some fast facts, but it will be very quickly because I think that's not the main interest of today. And then I will go over the case study of Bonita usage in Project Zoomies. Okay?
La diffusion vient de démarrer. Tous les participants sont en mode écoute seule.
Okay, I pressed something, so I hope you can see still. Okay, so some fast facts about the company. First of all, it's a quite young company. It's about 3 years old. Actually, we had our birthday just a couple of weeks ago, and something is happening on my screen, so I still believe you can hear me.
Yes, Martin, we can hear you and we can see your screen
so
correctly.
at the moment we are having 25 specialists, but we are a part of a larger group, and so we have 150 plus specialists in that group. So that makes us small and dynamic, but at the same time very, very stable. Okay.
Martin, we cannot hear you anymore. I'm going to pause here for a second and apologize for the participant in the room. Martin, if you can hear me, we cannot hear you. Martin, can you please check the audio of your microphone because we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Okay,
Very
let's
fun.
continue. So you are presenting your company, and we're going to continue on that. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So we have started partnering with Bonita Soft from the very beginning of our company. So in 2013, we have become a Bonita Soft partner. We are working with the largest regional IT companies and with some of quite large governmental institutions, Ministry of Agriculture being one of them. We also work. We have also been working with Ministry of Finance within the sector of legal system and with some other customers. We have been specializing in Java, JavaScript, and obviously BPM. And the software that we use for BPM and business process management is Bonita Soft. So actually Jumis was the first project where we used it, but we are using it in some other projects as well, because we believe that's the way how to make a better e-services, kind of to make it more configurable, etc. And last but not the least, we are also quite big fans of some agile methodologies. Therefore, we try to move our projects step by step, module by module, etc., to make sure that some results are reached faster. Okay. So I think actually that's enough about our company. I think that more interesting part of this webinar definitely would be the business case or the case of the project Jumis. Okay. So let's move to that part. Okay, so this is actually how Jumis front page looks like, or actually looked like a bit some weeks ago. It is moving on, and then there are new services added to the platform in every week or every month. So basically, the platform in general, Jumis in general, it's a project for people working in agriculture sector. And it is combining various services for those people. Various services actually provided by various institutions that are subordinate to Ministry of Agriculture. So in this project, we actually had four institutions that were partners to this project. Three of them were submitting e-services, and one of them is an IT center for the Ministry of Agriculture. So those institutions were National Payment Agency, so that is an agency that takes care of all the European Union funding for farmers and for agriculture, for other projects and programs. That was institution responsible for food and veterinary services, so checking registering cattle, checking quality of food, of follow up on these things. That was an institution responsible for ecological services and certifying farmers and agricultural units that they are green units, that they are ecological units. And as I mentioned, that was also information and business center or an IT partner of this project that is actually hosting all the solution and taking care of its, how to say, not maintenance, but looking after it and make sure that it is up and running. So this project was not for one customer; it was for Ministry of Agriculture with some subordinate institutions. So it was quite big in that way, and also a bit complex in that way, because of course each of those institutions had their special needs, some modifications that they wanted to see in their processes, etc. Therefore, also using such tool as Bonita to make sure that you can adopt those processes quite easily was a good choice. Okay, so a bit about the project in more detail. So as I already said, Žumis is a single access point, so it means that the vision of the project was to make a single point with single account for a user to go on the portal, register once, and to be able to submit documents, submit forms, submit questions for various e-services that are delivered. Say to ask for EU funding, to certify ecological production, maybe to register say feed for animals, etc., etc. Of course, before that, those services were either actually you were able to do them or to get them by submitting paper forms and paper documents, or you had to go to different places. So during the project, it was 6 bundles of e-services, a total of 30 services, but as the platform is made in a way that users are able to create new services and to adopt current ones, then the number of services is growing. What was a rather big challenge during the project was to go through all the integrations and actually to collect data needed for those services from various systems. At the end of the project, there were more than 30 integrations created with third-party systems. There were ideas to create even more, but some of those integrations were not even, no one was able to do because just the other parties were not ready to provide data based on integrations. So it was also a lot of integrations that were needed to create. And of course, I already mentioned, but institutions are able to create their own e-services. Of course, as always, some of them do more of that, use more of this opportunity. Some of them use it a little bit less, but it is possible, and we already have seen institutions doing it. So I think that is already a successful thing. Okay.
Martin, sorry to cut you.
For those of you who
sorry to cut you, just a little remark. Can you stay closer to the microphone, because otherwise your voice is a little bit up and down, so it's going to be difficult to follow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it better now?
Yes, thank you very much.
Cool, very good. Okay, then if to continue, then for those that are a bit more technical, just a quick overview of technology used other than BonitaSoft. It was Java-based technology. The whole project is Java-based. So it was all the front of the portal was based on the Java framework Wicked. Of course, with all the HTML, etc., that is needed for nice front end. At the back, in the middleware and database, based on Oracle. And for integrations, there was a partner of BonitaSoft, Talent in Enterprise Service Bus used. So kind of, if you will have more questions maybe about technology, you can ask them later. I will more concentrate on not so technical things, or not so technological things. Okay. Okay. So why did we choose Bonita at the beginning of the project? Because there were other opportunities and possibilities, and actually during the very initial phase of the project, that was one of the requirements to research several alternatives, at least actually 3 alternatives for business process management and creation form creation. So the team researched 3. They researched actually a bit more than 3, but the final 3 that were compared was Intalio Business Process Management System, Oracle Business Process Management, and BonitaSoft. So of course it's a standard for all is BPMN second version. At that time it actually was quite new. Of course now it is already standard for most of the platforms. Then things that was making quite huge difference was ability to create your own forms, and how hard or easy it was to do it. Then at least at that time, it was in 2013, Oracle was actually really bad at that, and they were not really they were not able to provide technology that would be understandable for less technical or even non-technical person. Intalio was able to do at least something, but it didn't provide such flexibility as Bonita did. So in that sense, Bonita, at least in that part that was form creation, was a clear winner. And as it actually was a major part of requirement, then of course that was already a major plus. But there is, of course, when you talk about business management processes, there are a lot of additional functionality, like monitoring, for example, maybe archiving of processes, being able to switch processes, close processes, etc. So, openly speaking, of course, Oracle as a larger manufacturer provides maybe a bit more of that additional functionality, maybe a bit more deeper functionality, but Intalio provides very little of that. Bonita provides some of that. I would say that Bonita provides what is necessary, maybe with some extras, without extras on top. So it was also okay. Then, of course, licensing cost. Of course, you could use Bonita, that community version, but to create forms, we had to use a subscription version. Therefore, there was some licensing cost. But even even that, compared to Intalio and Oracle, that was way more appropriate. Openly speaking, in the budget that was available for the customer, for example, it was not even possible to squeeze in necessary Oracle licenses. And actually, then the last things that were really interesting for the team and really important for the team while they were researching different functionality and different products was where the support is provided from. And for example, like in Intalio, of course, at least we knew it's in USA. There were, as a Lithuanian company, Lithuanian project, there of course it meant that there were time differences and we would not be able to get it right away. With Oracle, actually, we didn't really understand who will provide the support or how it happens in general. And with Bonita Soft, it was a very pleasure to communicate with them from France, and also later on in the project, actually the support proved really quite valuable and quite available. So it was really, I think, a good choice. And the last one, I think that actually made the decision very clear was that the team tried to do a simple process with a simple form and try to measure how fast is it. So actually, like in Intalio, it was a couple of days, and you could have a simple process with a simple form. With Oracle, it was a couple of weeks. Actually, I think it was up to around a month to do it because of the complexity. And with Bonita Soft, at least a simple process and simple form, at that time, our team was able to do in a couple of hours. So that was a clear, then one of the very, very clear winner, I would say. Okay. Okay, we spent a lot of time on this slide, so let's move to the next one. Okay, now in the next part of the presentation, I will go over some processes that are created in the project, that were created in the project, and explain them and explain benefits provided by them. And then later I will also go through some forms. Okay. What is important to note is that this project Jumis, it was created using Bonita BPM 6.2 version. So compared to currently available 7 up version, then it is quite old version. So the process creation tool screens look very different. Of course, now Bonita uses Angular, etc. So it's way more sexy to say, way more approachable, nicer. But nevertheless, it was still okay. Okay. So. Yes, these processes, of course, they are in Lithuanian because the whole project is created in Lithuanian. I noticed that many attendees are from Lithuania, so you will understand the processes. Others will not, unfortunately. So this is a very simple process, basically to upload data from various integrations and to allow to fill in an online form. So it's a very, very simple process. Actually, I think this is a test process, and none of the processes is so simple in the system. But the good part already with this is that we were able to make sure that the existing data preloads from various sources through integrations. So also most of those integrations were actually used to upload data. Data like, say, if the person comes to fill a form or fill a process, then data about his what agricultural land he has or she has, what agricultural infrastructure, machinery, etc., for example, or what cattle is registered to the name of the person who wants to fill a form, and all other similar data. This is another process. This is a fully automated process for certification of feed for animal, to certify as an animal feed manufacturer. So before that, you had to supply forms, and you had paper forms, and you had to a person in the institution had to work with them. When it was done, it was actually fully automated. A person, if a person filled all the forms correctly and they went through all the validation, then that data was automatically sent to the backend system. A person would be registered to be animal feed manufacturer. He would actually receive a certificate that he or she can print out from the system, and also would receive an invoice that can be paid later on. So of course, and automate such level of automatization, of course, eliminates risk and delay of manual tasks. There is no risk on the things on the side that the person might get sick, for example, or get too much work, etc. So I think this is a quite simple, maybe on one hand, process, but quite well and bringing a lot of benefit. Then, of course, in Bonita, we also use the sub-processing. As in any BPM tool, I think you can get processes and some processes. This is a sub-process for payment. If e-service or provision of e-service requires a payment, then this is a sub-process that you can put to that process, and the process would have a payment part of it. So this is quite good because you can create, and separately you can create a small process, for example, in this case for payments, and then you can reuse it in all the processes you need, and this is exactly what we did. And then, for example, during the project, we use for payment, we use national infrastructure for payment, VISP. So during the project, actually, they changed the web service standard. So it was quite easy for us because we had to change that standard only in this sub-process, and we didn't need to go over each and every process and make changes there. So this is quite a good feature. Of course, also it makes these processes to become more flexible, because, for example, if at the moment there is a paid service or free service, then if that changes, it's quite easy to add sub-process or to take it out, and you can just carry on. And also what has been done is that the payment part is automatic. So I will show you, you will see it later in the forms, but basically the information about the payment that is collected during filling of the forms, it is automatically passed on to the payment component. And so when you just pick your bank and you receive the amount of money and all the transfer details automatically, so basically all you have to do is just sign it, confirm it, and that's it. You don't have to remember the amount that you have to transfer or details where to transfer, etc. So it's quite neat. Okay, this is a bit a bigger process. What I wanted to maybe emphasize here, it's the same data loading. So this process starts to preload data from various sources, like legal person register, physical person register, from local system, from local backend system, is a person allowed to submit particular document. And based on this validation, actually during the process, it is decided automatically, based on the data, whether the person can continue receiving the service or not. And if he or she cannot, then the process is actually stopped and the person is just notified that you are not able to fulfill this service because of some particular reason. And if it's okay and the data is valid and appropriate, then extra data is loaded and the person can go on and fill his online forms and move on. So it is quite neat, because then what it means is that there is less confusion. For example, maybe in earlier days, person would just fill everything out by hand, maybe even bring it to the agency that takes care of those particular documents, and just to find out that he was too late or too early or he can't do it at all. So when you automate these processes in such way, then you eliminate that risk and you eliminate time spent on that kind of time wasted if you just don't have the rights to fulfill or to go through some particular service. Also, of course, when you have these validations and etc., you can more accurately collect documents and all the information. And actually, the system is done in a way that when a person fills all information out, the information is sent to the backend system, and that the backend system then through a web service, and in the web service, when it goes to the backend system, it actually validates the data and validates it with what is expected at the backend side. And if there are some errors or something is wrong, then appropriate messages are given back to the user of the system, so that the user actually can correct the information. And only when it is correct and it is acceptable by the backend system, only then it actually goes through. So what it means is that if a service or if these forms and documents, if they go through, then it is a very high chance that they are very, very accurate. So it is again saves manual tasks and saves some confusion. Okay. Also, most of the services, or maybe like more complex services, of course, when they are evaluated and administered, there are more complex backend solutions for that. But during the project, with one type of services, we actually created the user part where the user fills in forms, and then we also created the backend part where the employee of an agency can check those forms, can ask extra questions if needed, can actually evaluate it and notify the evaluation of the form, say approved or not approved. So it is a kind of a bit complete end-to-end. That process is complete end-to-end process, starting with using several actors, user at the very beginning, and then the worker, government worker at the end, and they also can communicate with each other, request additional information. That was done through extensions, so it's also quite a good thing that it is possible when working with Bonita, it is possible to extend it a lot and integrate it more flexibly in your infrastructure and to get extra things done there. So it's quite neat. And of course, even though it's a simple one, simple process, simple evaluation process, but still, if these processes are repeated quite often, or these processes need to be repeated, then of course it saves time. It's also a good thing. Okay, so that was kind of various processes, various types of processes that were created during the project. Now I also would like to show some examples of forms. I will notify and will tell a bit more, but already at the very beginning I can tell that many forms were done by Bonita standard widgets and standard functionality, but some of them were done with the help of JavaScript components, and some of pages and some of services forms were purely done with JavaScript components. And also now when we use a bit of Bonita 7 that is Angular based, then also it's kind of quite easy for us to adopt it because we already know Angular and we already have done it earlier. Okay, so this is kind of the simplest form. Basically, you just read some declaration or read some things that you have to declare. You just say that you agree to that and you move on. So this is kind of the most simple form. It is a bit complicated form. It is actually a form that it's actually a form where you have an address component, it comes from the integration. What we have done here that is maybe a bit more interesting, especially for Bonita, is that for Bonita usage is that we actually have created hybrid fields or hybrid widgets that do auto-complete and select at the same time. So that's quite interesting. And we also were able to parse information received by integration. So basically, when you put a region, for example, when you pick a region, then automatically a city is, the list of city is decreased. That was actually, for us in the beginning, that was not so easy, but we managed to, of course, we learned with the project, we managed, and it was quite okay. Maybe very interesting part was that we actually, in some of the forms, like in some forms, we added the geographic information system component. That was an Esri based. Esri is quite famous and I think leader in geographic information systems worldwide. So we were able to do that. It's in the middle of the form. Here in the beginning, you fill the necessary fields. You press a button that you want to draw something, and this is here. You are drawing where you will grow a new forest. So you draw where you will do it. It calculates the area of that place. You approve it, and then it automatically goes into the form after the geographic information system component. So you have it already automatically here. So it was quite an interesting, I think, solution and possibility to integrate this thing. And again, I think it's also possible because you can use a JavaScript on top of standard Bonita. I think this is the most, one of the most actually complex screens or pages that we have been doing in this project. Most of the information you are seeing in the screen, like here, like classification, for example, data, it comes from backend system. And basically, based on classification, you get data and you get sub-classification, etc. So this was quite difficult to do. We had to use our own JavaScript framework to do it. Because of course standard features are meant for a bit simpler tasks and simpler pages, but because Bonita allows us freedom to extend it, we were successfully able to do these things and actually to fulfill most, I think that 90-95% of what was initially required by the customer. We even managed to do a pop-up in a pop-up. That's kind of, at least for technical people, it's actually quite interesting that you can make it happen. Of course, for that you need JavaScript, some more complex JavaScript things. So that was possible. We were able to do it. So that was quite a good thing. I already talked about the pricing and the payment module. So here is how it looks, more or less. Is that within the form, person who is filling the form, he gets where to pay, the account and how much to pay, like 86 euros. This number, how much to pay in this particular form, it is actually automatically calculated based on the choices the person does within the form. So basically, based on the categories you want to certify, based on amounts, etc., the amount of money you have to pay is calculated. And then that amount of money, you can see it here, then that amount of money is passed through to national infrastructure for payment, and you can just press which bank you want to, from which internet banking you want to pay it, and that internet bank will receive all the details, and you will just have to approve the payment, and you don't need to memorize all those account numbers, where to pay, etc. So this was quite a neat solution how to process payment. Okay, so in general, what it means is that during the project we were able to make various complexity of forms, very simple using just Bonita, Bonita widgets and Bonita standard functionality, or way more complex using geographic system, information system, using pure JavaScript, just to create our own common components, create our own common pages. So, and this extension actually, we didn't maybe even evaluate that before the project, and we didn't really know, it wasn't the part that we really like dig into before the project, but during the project we understood that that was another big winner why was it better to do it with Bonita rather than with some other proprietary maybe solutions that wouldn't allow such extending of the functionality proposed. So it was this was a really good thing. And of course, there's many built-in features like validations that you can just create quite easily and reuse them, connectors, use those field widgets, etc. So that was quite okay. Okay, actually, I think that now I will move to the last part of the presentation. Basically, what were the lessons learned and what were the results? So I will structure as in a way that what did we learn as a company, then what did we learn as a partner, and then basically what were the main results or the results of the project. Okay. So for us, of course, the things that we really learned and during the project that we enhanced a lot is actually the expertise with BPMN and with processes, also JavaScript components for those. And I think it's fair to say that most projects, at least in Lithuania, they are actually done by hard coding of processes, of business processes, and then you really can't change them or adopt them like from business perspective. You always have to ask a programmer to do it, or maybe even make a purchase to adopt something. I think that like in this case, at least when you use these BPM things, you can do changes to the processes, especially if you learn and if you're motivated to do that. And I think that is something that we really learned, and it was a bit of an eye-opener also for us. And after that project, we have actually tried in one way or another in most of our e-service projects we are somehow using this business process management just to make sure that the processes are more flexible and you can change them, you can add some steps to them, you can maybe take a step out, etc. Another thing that I have already mentioned a couple of times is that I really feel that Bonita BPM has the right balance between like built-in and features and extension. So and especially as the versions move on, they have been adopting quite a lot of things, and we have seen that, and they have made the functionality richer. But all the time you are still able to do any extension that you need, and I think that's very good, because very often what I have seen with using products is that customer starts to require things that are out of the scope for the product, and then it either the customer is unhappy because he just or she just doesn't receive what is wanted, or the product is actually broken, and then it's not possible to upgrade the version, or sometimes even it just breaks down and it doesn't work properly. I think that Bonita has the right balance of that. So you can do quite a lot of things by functionalities that are in, and then you can extend with the functionalities that you need. And for example, what we were been able to do as an extension, for example, we were able to improve the way Bonita forms load. So we were able to extend on that, and that actually, because the forms that we had to do in Zoomies were quite complicated, and maybe more complicated than in general for average Bonita project maybe. Then we were able actually to increase the performance, and based on the form, based on the complexity of form, integrations, pages, etc., we actually increased the performance of the forms 10 to 100 times. So maybe it was a form that would take a minute, say, to load because there was a lot of data to preload, integrations, etc. And we were able to make an extension to Bonita, increase that performance, and it would take just like up to maybe 5 seconds to load. So it was, I think, that's quite a cool thing. And of course, yeah, in general, we just better understood the government challenges and how to the challenges exactly in these e-services and collecting applications and evaluating, etc. So it was also a quite good improvement in that way. Okay, but then what did we learn as a BonitaSoft partner? Because also it really makes a difference with what company you partner. So there were a couple of things that we learned when we partnered with BonitaSoft. So of course, yeah, one is that there are these features, but I have already talked about them. They have been increasing those features all the time. So it was quite good. It's in a way it's a product that moves forward. The freedom as well. We did a lot of integrations. We were able to add our own scripts, a lot of our own scripts. We were able to add our validations, our connectors for various external systems, JavaScript, etc. But I think what was actually the most important part was that we bet correctly on is that the support of Bonita team. And I think that they are trying, we noticed that they are trying very hard to help us. And from my earlier experience, I have seen that other manufacturers usually don't do it unless you purchase for huge amount of money. But in Bonita, the people really tried to help us out. For example, we were quite stuck at some stage to make sure that when you move from one page to another, that the draft form would be saved. And it wasn't a standard functionality. We were trying to make some extensions for that, but it didn't really seem to work. And then we communicated with Bonita. We showed that problem. We said that it's a really important requirement of the customer and that we need to solve it somehow. And actually, Bonita support team was quite eager and quite fast solving that. Of course, they know the architecture of Bonita and they were being able to do it better. In a way that to make that extra functionality, but it was quite fast. I think even a couple of days, and they suggested a solution, and it works. So it's quite good. And very often when we also there are some problems arose, because of course in any project there are also some problems. Then very often when we put them to customer portal and when we registered them, very often it was quite fast when Bonita either solved it or suggested a workaround for that. So I think that's a really important thing when you make a big complicated project based on a product or using a product in a core. It's very, very important how you are supported by the manufacturer. Okay, then some results of the project, what has happened and what is happening at the moment. So first of all, the system at the moment has had up to around 1,500 customers. I think that around 600 e-services have been provided. These numbers maybe are not tremendously huge, but there is a reason for that, because at the moment EU funding periods are changing, hence kind of the ones that the period that is closing, there is less for them to do with this new system. But the period that will do more with the new system is the new period, and the new period is opening up a bit in a way slowly, step by step. So also customers and services are increasing step by step. Of course, at least I think, and what I have heard, that the solution in general saves time for government employees, because as I mentioned earlier, a lot of data is received correctly, documents are received correctly, totally wrong services don't even get to the customer, to the workers in government, etc. Of course, maybe it might be that some other functions of government, say support team or something, might get a more contact center, might get a bit more calls, and like why I can't submit any service. But I think in general that they save time. Time is really saved. Of course, especially those processes that are more automated than others, there are less errors in them, and I think that's always a good thing, because when you do process manually, when you do papers manually, when someone checks it manually, then it's quite easy to make an error on any side. So these automated processes really also save error, and when there are less errors, then it's also less nerves, less emotional issues. So it's quite good. In general, even though at the moment this platform is slowly picking up, but in general, the whole platform and infrastructure, hardware for that, software, etc., it is built for really large-scale operations, and the requirement and also the architecture that was designed by our team, it is made in a way to support around 500,000 of services or services processes at the same time. So we have really built it for a long time and for a long future. So it's possible to add more and more services on this platform, and there will be no need to change something drastically in it. And last but not the least, even though I personally was a bit skeptical about this at the very beginning of the project, but actually non-technical users can create new services and new forms themselves, and I'm happy that my mind has been changed on that. I even know a person that has no IT background whatsoever, and he is quite nifty creating those forms and processes, and his background is in something like political science or something. So this really shows that even though maybe sometimes it's harder, sometimes those forms require custom components, but it's still possible for people, for non-technical people, to play around with them, change fields, change pages, etc., and receive the results they want, maybe without extra support from IT. Okay, so that's actually it. That's all of my presentation. Feel free to request any additional information. There are my contacts written on the screen at the moment, and you can ask me about anything, about Bonita, about other experience, expertise, etc. So I think that's it. So somehow I will pass it to Olivia.
Thank you very much, Martin. I personally appreciate your presentation, and I guess that's the same for the conference room. It's always very important to see the concrete outcomes of a project based on processes, and thank you for sharing with such transparency what you've experienced and what has been the result for Zoomies. We are not quite yet finished with the presentation, so I'm going to take back the lead of the screen now. If you give me 1 second. Normally you should be able, and I hope this is the case, to see my screen right now. Please, Martin, if you can confirm.
Yes, I can see.
Super. So for those that are just joined us recently, we finished the part presented by the CEO of INNTEC, Martin, explaining so his expertise and his experience using Bonita BPM technology in the Ministry of Agriculture in Lithuania. And before we turn to the question and answer session, I'm going to briefly present you who we are, Bonita Soft as a company. Quick reminder, don't hesitate to use the question section in the control panel of GoToWebinar in order to mark your question, and we will review them at the end of that presentation. So here rapidly, and I think it's important to do that after as well, Martin explained his experience. We as a BPM vendor are always interested and eager to explain why we do what we do and how we came out basically with our product philosophy. If you are today with us in that conference, is that somehow you are having, and you've seen yourself, some dilemmas when it comes to identifying a technology or a solution to support your business on a daily basis. You have basically two options. Either you build a tool or you buy one. If you buy one, so in that case, let's state that it's an off-the-shelf solution or vertical solution. It's cool. On a demo, it can have a pretty interesting wow effect, but in practice mode, on a day-to-day basis, it becomes quite complicated at starting the moment you want to have something really fitting your particular needs, your particular necessities as a business. And so if you want to counter that rigid approach, you'll have to spend some time and some money, obviously, on trying to customize that. And most of the time you're kind of blocked by what the vendor is offering because it's a vertical off-the-shelf solution, and by definition it's made for a certain scope of usage. The other alternative would be to build some stuff from the scratch, so the classical custom development application approach. So yeah, as well, it can be perceived as pretty interesting, attractive, because it's a blank page, because you can do whatever you want, but in reality you will have to be patient in order to have the application within your hands, because it's normal, as it's all built up from scratch. The cycles are pretty long in order to get into production, whereas clients most of the time what they want is a solution rapidly. And when your client will come back to you, or you as a client, you'll come back to your informatic technology solution provider, you will say, okay, I need this to change, I will this need to evolve or to adapt. They'll be kind of stuck at one point as well in order to provide these movements, this flexibility rapidly. And when you do, obviously, there's a cost linked to that. So those observations, obviously, we're not the only one who made those observations. And to quote Gartner, I mean, everybody knows Gartner, and they estimated that in 2013 alone, companies spent more than $540 billion in having those custom-built application software up. And so the cost related to the development is actually just one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is that in only 1 year, this cost is increasing by nearly 30% for the simple reason that there's maintenance costs adding up to that. But there's a good news here, Gartner stated in his report, is that if you choose the correct tooling, if you really take into consideration what are the elements you need in order to both develop and maintain your business application needs, you can cut those costs by half of it, by nearly 50%. So it's with those conclusions, with those observations of the market, with those needs and demands arising from the market that we came up with Bonita BPM, and notably our latest version 7. So yeah, a little tagline here. Sometimes you need custom application development, usually you don't. And thank you again, Martin, because I think actually you did part of my job during your own presentation, is to explain how we've been thinking the product itself to have the right balances, what you need out of the box and what you can extend. So our first concept inside BonitaSoft as a company is to set the developers free. So Martin's team as a BonitaSoft partner INNTEC have been able to do so. They have the graphical tooling for the developer at their disposition. So they're basically far more empowering approach because they have what they need right away. And when they are needing something which isn't in the product, thrown with our open source history, we are enabling this extensibility of the code to create whatever extra is required within the frame of a particular project at a particular client with particular needs, with particular necessities. And our philosophy as well, and we call that our living application concept, is to be able to realize whatever modification you want on the fly. And here I'm talking technically speaking. So we are bringing that living application concept granularity really deep down. You can change processes, you can change interfaces, you can change connectors, you can change Groovy scripts, you can change fragments, tons of things on the fly, meaning without having to stop the application, make your changes and redeploy the solution afterwards. It's live. So obviously we do that. Why? Because Martin as a partner, us as a company, we obviously need to please the business people. And most of the time what they really want is just to have within their hands something that is echoing, responding, fitting with their really need on a daily basis. So first of all, the application needs to be really engaging, and so this is doable notably with our UI designer, and they want to be able to come back to either the development business analyst team saying, okay, in my market, for example, here we had the case of the MIS, it's Ministry of Agriculture. There's lots of regulation. They are moving along the time. It's never frozen in time. So if something is changing on the market, on the domain, you need to be able to reflect that pretty rapidly within the application itself. So it's really, keeping up to speed. So it can, down the road, maintain the competitive advantage and the alignment with the need of the clients and the end users of the clients. So rapidly, I mean, you've seen, and thank you again, Martin, examples of forms of processes, but here let me briefly walk you through how it looks like within Bonita BPM solution. So this is our studio, Bonita BPM Studio, which is obviously part of our Bonita BPM subscription, the same that Martin with his team at INNTEC used for the Ministry of Agriculture in Lithuania. So it's built up on the #1 open source BPM solution in the business. So you start with some obvious advantages right off the gate. First, you can create powerfully your processes using the business process management notation 2.0 that Martin rightly highlighted as being a standard, which is very important to maintain and safeguard basically the maintainability of the application down the road. You can define, store, and query the business data that will be used. When the processes are built, it's easy to build highly engaging application, personalized application to support those processes of your clients. You get state-of-the-art tools from building great UIs that will work on every device. We are proposing responsiveness within our subscription, whereas you are on a tablet, on a laptop, on a smartphone, on a big screen. The forms will resize automatically depending on where the forms is popping up in terms of device using it. So your end user can really access and interact with your business data no matter where they are. And finally, as I've already mentioned, and as well Martin mentioned, these applications aren't rigid or are coded application that you get from custom development houses. You can literally make changes. Oh, I think there's a little delay on my screen. You can literally make changes to everything you want. As I mentioned, it can be the layout, it can be the interfaces, it can be the tabs, it can be the processes. I mean, here obviously is a little animation, but it goes much more deeper. And so you are able to basically say to the client, or you as a client being able to request those changes to the people implementing the solution you need. So the results are, I don't want to brag about it, but it's true. The results are truly amazing. Here you'll see a business application built end-to-end with Bonita BPM 7. You can launch processes and create tasks natively, okay? Within the application, you're not being redirected somehow to a web page or interacting with another system. You are really interacting directly with your business data, business system, sorry, and the data it holds. User can see the data, the analytics, the graphics that they need on a daily basis. And here we're notably thinking about the CIOs, the process managers that are needing those information to do their jobs more effectively right away within the application on a daily basis. And they can powerfully and easily, you know, update and change those graphics, and obviously the technical people as well can create new ones if needed. And finally, the application and the experience around the application you end up having with Bonita BPM technology isn't, I would say, sacrificed at any step of the way, because you get with rich multi-pages application, you have a great deal of personalization. Developers and users basically aren't limited to an approach like, well, this is the portal, this is standard, you can tweak some stuff, but you'll be limited to that. No, it's not a one-size-fits-all type of approach. It's a really custom, deep custom one. So if we were to resume the features that have been, I would say, centered in our philosophy at the BPM suite, and we've seen and I lied thanks to Martin many of those today. The first one is that with Bonita BPM, it's really a comprehensive suite, and it includes everything you need to model and execute powerful processes, obviously, to build engaging applications, we've seen that, to update them easily, as we've just discussed, but as well, and Martin pretty well expressed that with the constraints in terms of integration that were within his client project in the Ministry of Agriculture, one of the key features of Bonita BPM is the ability to connect to nearly any third-party system like CRMs, ERPs, BI, tooling. I mean, there's tons of them. Bonita BPM, we includes an extensible framework, as we've stated, to add your own connectors, to add your own graphical components, and to even create your own very own REST APIs to to match with what the client needs and not to, reinvent the wheel within his existing information system, but smoothly integrate into it. And finally, as we've seen, you are as well getting built-in monitoring dashboard to easily track how the processes and business activity is performing. So in terms of benefits, because at the end of the day, what matters is obviously the benefits brought to the client, and we've seen that as well with Martin, it's you get your development team the advantage that are significant because they'll be able to get the application out of the door faster. Okay, go to prod is really important for the client, but speed is just part of the equation. It's just part of it. Earlier we talked about the fact that close to 30% of the cost related to an application was linked to maintenance and updating the application. So by having this capability within Bonita BPM tool to build adaptable living application, you'll cut those costs exponentially. As a client, you'll reduce your budget. As a partner in tech, you will be able to deliver more and rapider to your client the solution. So it's a pretty interesting concept because the application can be updated in real time as you need to improve the process, UI, and even when the data changes. For the users, we've seen that already live thanks to Martin. The users get a much better, more personalized experience, and they can do their job with, I would say, fewer hiccups and far less frustration with the tool that they are using that are built either by our partner or by us. And finally, the business bit. They get what they want, and they have far more visibility into how critical business processes within their company are performing, with the ability to quickly, narrow down where would be a bottleneck or something they can improve. So Bonita, few facts about the company, so you know who we are. So we are not just the #1 open source BPM solution on the market. We have been put up a team to support the fact that we are international, our customer are international, so our team are international via our customer success department notably. We have great training and consulting that are, by the way, used as well by our partners within the frame of their client's project to ensure the success down the road of their client's project. And obviously we have the best partner to get for the client most out of their investment. We also built a user community which is strong of more than 120,000 members. So it's a great place as well to gather knowledge, expertise, has technical questions. You have experts there answering Bonita people as well as partners. Few facts, few numbers. We become the fastest growing BPM vendor in the world thanks to the continued support of our customer, our partners, thanks again Martin, and the entire development community. We are a company with more than 130 employees today. We are present in 75 countries. We have a network to support every local demands that we observed of more than 170 partners, and the number are just getting bigger and bigger. It's very exciting for us. It's very exciting to share that success as well with our partners to tackle more and more projects at clients. And the strengths and innovation of our product, of our customer base has brought us some recognition, an important recognition from the industry. So we're pretty grateful to have firms like Gartner, obviously, and InfoWorld paying such close attention to our innovation, as well as awards coming from technical leaders in the market, Bossy Awards, Cody Awards. InfoWorld, Mr. Bark from the well-renowned InfoWorld magazine who said Bonita BPM still paints the prettiest picture of open source BPM. So it's pretty cool. And it reflects, obviously, via the clients we do have globally, more than 1,000 of them spread out over, among 75 countries. Obviously, we couldn't fit all of their logos on a single slide, but we're presented by major international business in every sector: financial, insurance, governments, such as the case we discussed today in that webinar with Zoomies, with our partner INNTEC, the Ministry of Agriculture. So companies, for example, like CSC, Xerox, Stanford University, that are betting, like our partner INNTEC did on Bonita BPM, to build up the correct application based on processes for the client's requests and needs. So it's true the way we work, and Martin highlighted that as well during his presentation, is like we're really tight with our partners. So if tomorrow you have a project yourself in Lithuania and other countries, don't hesitate to contact our partner INNTEC and ourselves to see how we can support you at every stage of what is the life cycle, basically, of a business process management project and application. We are at the side of our partner. We're part of the game. We're playing the game either on the development aspect, modeling aspect, integration aspect, before you're going to prod for your project as a client, after you're in prod, everything that goes down as well to support. So this is a truly collaboration that I'm happy we can disclose today and illustrate with a concrete example that has been the Ministry of Agriculture in Lithuania. And now I think it's time for us to thank you in the name, obviously, of INNTEC and Bonita Soft. We have been really pleased to have you with us today online. And I guess now it's time to answer your questions, if any have been marked. Here again, you have the details to contact martin.limberts@inntec.it, and myself, Olivia Alimi, in charge of the partner network here at Bonita Soft, olivia.alimi@bonitasoft.com. So now let's see if we do have questions to answer. Let me monitor that within the control panel of GoToWebinar. Okay. So there's a question, and Martin, here I think you'll have to open up your mic. There's a question of how many people in your team have been working on that project? I think
Okay, hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Martin.
Yes, so in total the project, we did it together with partners, so in total the project was around 12 people, and the technical team was around 8-9 people.
Okay, thank you for that precision. There's a question as well, and I guess here it's going to be me answering it, about our subscription, Bonita BPM subscription. So you get several things, and that was the case for Martin's team as a partner for his project. When you buy from us, or when you buy from one of our vendors, obviously, that are able to resell our services, our products, a subscription, so a professional license of our tooling, such as the one that has been used for this project, you get several things. You get a series of features, a set of features, which is linked to the level, the edition that you are choosing. We have several of them with different set of features to match with different types of projects. You get as well up to 10 development licenses for collaborative development, so you can develop with your team, your technical team as a client internally, plus the team of the partner, plus maybe other actors that you are implicating within your project. You have as well, within a Bonita BPM subscription, a production license, so to basically put in production your application. It can be either hosted on the cloud, it can be hosted on your server in your premises, it can be hosted on the server of the partner's premises. There's various configurations. You're free to elect the one you desire. Or a factor which is important to precise, that in our subscription for the license you get for the production part, you're not limited in terms of number of CPU cores. So if your machine need to grow because your application is growing, you won't be blocked or financially asked to put, again, some dollars on the table. And an important fact as well is that we are allowing, with Bonita BPM subscription commercial editions, an unlimited number of end users. So whereas we're talking about concurrent users or not frequent users, I mean, how many people you want will be able to connect to the applications you would have developed with Bonita BPM subscriptions. I'm going to see if there's other questions popping up. Oh, there's a question about, has this webinar been recorded? Can we see it? Yes, we are currently recording it. We're going to edit the video and we're going to put it online on Bonita Soft website, and obviously share as well the video with our partner INNTEC so we can use it as well for the people that would like to see it again. So please bear with us. It's going to take some days to put the video up on the website, but you'll have it with our voices, the screens, and everything. There's a question here, and I think it will be for you, Martin. It's about Apache Wicket that was used together with Bonita BPM to extend it. The question is like, what were the most difficult or critical situation problems you overcome when starting using Bonita BPM solution? So here I cannot speak in your name, Martin. I'll let you answer that question if you can.
Okay. In terms of the most difficult thing in the project, I think it was actually the complex forms that we had to create. But Wicket was used more for the general portal, and Bonita processes and Bonita forms were integrated as a part of that portal.
Okay.
So with Java framework we did the general portals, and we had buttons that would control Bonita processes, and then Bonita forms would open up within that portal, and you could fill them, and then when you are done filling, then you move back to the general portal. Okay. So that's kind of from technological part. But yeah, the most difficult in that the integration, actually, Bonita's integration within the portal was not very challenging. It was quite understandable and easy to do. Yeah, so it was quite okay.
Thank you for your answer. For the moment, we don't have any other question, so I invite whomever is having one to take advantage of the fact that you have the CEO of our partner INNTEC in Lithuania and myself present to answer whatever question you will have. We're going to get an extra, obviously, second for you to mark a question if you have those within the GoToWebinar section question that you have at your disposition. I don't see anyone typing an additional question, so I guess you're fine. So again, in that case, in the name of INNTEC, in the name of Bonita Soft, I wanted to thank you all for being with us today, for seeing and participating to the presentation of our partner INNTEC, explaining how they use Bonita BPM technology within the frame of their client's project, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Zoomies project. And we all wish you a very great day, great lunch for those who are in Europe, great evenings for those who are on the east side of the globe. And whatever questions you have, feel free again to contact Martin and myself. Obviously, if you have as well a project for which you would like to investigate how we could answer those requirements of yours, functional, technical, business, feel free in contacting us so we can deeply investigate your requirements and see how we can be an answer for those requirements all together. Again, thank you all very much. Thanks again, Martin, and have a nice day ahead. Take care.